How's it going? Welcome back to the channel. In this video we are going to take these traditional steps and turn them into these beautiful steps right here. Easy enough that anybody can do it at your own home. So the first thing that we need to do is I'm going to take and get my riser on first. We're going to go riser, tread, riser, tread, riser, tread is how I want to install these, because whenever I put my tread down, I don't want to have to worry about getting really tight in the crevice of the step here. So every step I'm going to actually place my riser on top of the tread. That way it's going to eliminate any crack that we have back there, and it's going to be a nice clean finished look. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one cut first. Okay, I'm going to put my speed square right over the edge of the step right there, and I'm going to measure from the floor to the bottom of my speed square. That's going to give me a nice accurate something to measure to right there. So it looks like we're going to be right about 7.5 inches high for my riser. The same process with the width of these. If anything, just a fraction tight, okay, you can always trim it, but you can't stretch the board. So it's best to make sure you got plenty, okay? So we got 36 inches exactly on this. I might go 36 and a 32nd or something on this just to make it nice and snug. If something is off just a little square here, I'll be able to see where it's off and where it needs to be trimmed, okay? So about a 32nd heavy, and then I'll go from there, okay? So what I've got for my riser material is a 2 foot by 4 foot piece of MDF at Home Depot. You can get it back in the shelving department or around the trim or anything like that. It's a 1/2 inch thick and it's MDF, and what I got the MDF for is because it makes a nice slick surface. I'm not the best painter in the world, so kind of look over this. I did put interior trim paint on this, something that's semi-gloss, because your shoes are going to kick this a lot. So something easy to paint, easy to clean up and stuff like that, okay? I got my guide set on 7.5 inches. I'm going to go ahead and rip my height on this first, and then I will cut the width down, okay? Okay, so that should fit nice as far as the height on it. Now we're going to cut 36 and 32nd. Just make it a little bit heavy there. And you might see me observing these edges. These are factory edges here. I just want to make sure that I cut off the worst looking edge and I keep my best edge for my step, okay? That's what I was observing there. I'm using an ink pen to mark these so I can have a really nice fine line on it. I don't want a big old fat mark on it to judge by. This is the side that I cut right here on my saw. This is the factory edge. You can see where the paint actually went over. I'm going to take my cut edge, which is nice and clean cut, and I'm going to put it down on the floor, just for the simple fact that this has got just a couple little rough spots on it because it is a factory edge. You could trim both sides, but there's no sense in it. The stair nosing that we put over this is actually going to come down about a 1/2 inch or so like that. So all this edge is going to be covered up. So I'm going to have it on the top, okay? Now we want to stick it in between here and see if it works out all nice and level. Get out of your way there. Let's see here. Okay, that is actually a really good fit on the width. I want to lay my square over it right there and make sure that it's all nice and flat, coming directly across the step onto my tread, onto my riser right there. Everything looks really good. I actually got that good my first time. So we're going to go ahead and secure this to the step, okay? So a lot of people will actually take and run a construction adhesive on this. It's a good idea to do that. I'm not going to do that in this video simply because I use these steps time and time again. So you can see I did it here last time. I'm not going to do it in this video. I'm just going to simply shoot it on there with a pin shooter just for the sake of the video. You can see my glue pattern right here. You want to do that on your risers, okay? and I'll explain on the tread whenever we get there, okay? So do your little squiggly line of construction adhesive like that on your tread, on your riser, and I'll leave a link in the description on some recommended adhesives that work really good for this process, okay? Again, I'm just going to pin shoot these on here just for the sake of the video, okay? I'm not even going to get too carried away with stuff. They just have to be held on here for the video, okay? But if I was doing this for real, I would glue it and probably put me a couple pins up here at the top like that anyway. I notice I did get up close with my pins up here because that stair nosing, again, is going to come down and cover the top of this, so them nails would actually be hid by the stair nosing anyway, okay? So we got the riser put on. Let's go ahead and get our treads put on, okay? Okay, so the type of material that we're using here is a Cortex vinyl plank, and the color of this is a San Andreas oak that we're going to put on here, and it is Cortex with the cork backing, okay? Okay, so the planks that we're working with are only about 7 1/8 or something like that. Yeah, 7 1/8 wide, so obviously it's not wide enough to do our tread in one piece. So I'm going to go ahead and connect 2 of these boards together and mark them and everything just as one solid piece. Now you'll notice that these planks have a pretty distinct beveled edge on them. Okay, now I've got one solid piece that I can work with. And what I was saying about having a really distinct beveled edge here, these joints in the vinyl plank stand out tremendous on this particular plank. So you can have fun with these steps. You can actually do 2 pieces here, a small piece over here, or something like that. You can mix and match this wood any way that you want to make your steps look as original and as authentic as possible as far as it being a really wood looking floor, okay? So I will do one. I'll do some with solid planks. I'll do them with the strip in the front. I'll do one with the strip in the back, and I'll do one of these steps with a seam in it right here, having a butt joint on the steps. That way you can see all 3 different ways and decide how that you want to do it for yourself, okay? So the stair scribe that I'm using in these videos here is going to be the Treadman. It's made by ProKnead. It's definitely the most advanced stair scribe that there is on the market. You won't get a better scribe than this right here. Again, it is the Treadman stair scribe by ProKnead, okay? And I will leave a link to these products or tools that I'm using in the description, okay? The way this thing works, most of your scribes will just be a solid piece right here. So if it's at an angle, it gets your angle all good and everything, but this actually has 3 different adjustments on each side. So even if your wall has a slight bow in it right here, this scribe is going to contour to it so you can have a super nice fit on every step regardless of the out of square or the bow in your wall or anything, okay? So these are spring loaded here. They're at an angle. So what I want to do is push this over, get it as tight as possible against the wall, and then I'm going to lock that down into position with tension on it. Now I've got my width here. Slide these little brackets back and push it flush against the wall and tighten them down one at a time right there, okay? And this is transferring any angle, any little dip or bow in the walls whatsoever, okay? So I'm going to tighten my first one down because it actually goes to the spring-loaded one, and I'm all the way back to the back and all the way against the wall there. Okay, I got this thing locked down in position and set to template my tread. Now I'm going to pick up one side at a time so that I don't disturb my measurements. It is locked down, and this Treadman actually has sandpaper on the tops and bottom of these pieces so that it does get a good bite and don't slide around on you and stuff like that. Now I can take this and set it right on my boards over here, right on my tread, my planks that I'm going to be using, and just outline here, and the depth of my step right here. Everything is going to be a perfect fit if I just scribe to these edges. Okay, so like I said a while ago, this Cortex has really got some beveled edges, so I don't want to use one of these edges here, or else it's going to dip down and then the other side is going to be flat against the wall where it's not beveled. So I'm going to cut both sides. I want to cut both sides and the back so that we got a nice fit, okay? So this just going to set right up against the front of my plank right here, and I'm going to take my knife here. I have a concave blade in these. These are going to be your best blades for cutting vinyl plank right here. They have a nice point and they stay sharp for a really long time. So I got my sharp knife with a concave blade in it, and I'm just going to take and I'm going to take and cut right next to the side of this right here. I'm going to actually use the side of this jig right here for my straight edge, okay? Whenever I score that a couple times, I'll be able to break these off just like they go, okay? Now, for my back, I'm just going to go ahead and put me a couple mark right there and right there, because it's not that big of a deal to be so precise like I was talking about. So after I move this, I'll lay me a straight edge here and make my cut like that. The important part is the sides, which I'm doing right now, okay? So don't get carried away. You don't have to get super deep on these scribes or anything. The main thing is a nice, perfect cut right up against the side of your scribe, okay? So you can tell by the way I'm holding my knife, I'm not actually pushing down hard at all on these. I'm focusing on keeping my blade straight up and down, completely vertical, rather than having an angle in or out like that right there, okay? The main thing is keeping your blade straight up and down so that it don't deviate short and long on these cuts right here, okay? Okay, now it's real important. We already got this scribed. We don't want this to move any at all, okay? I'm going to go to the other side and do the exact same thing on this side right here, keeping my blade completely vertical. I don't want it to lean in or out whatsoever. Just in case you're wondering right here, what I'm working on, this Treadman scribe actually comes with a case, and that case will actually come apart and convert into a nice workspace right here, elevated up off the floor. That allows you to put your front on there and it hang down everything you need. Really nice workstation comes as a case for the Treadman, okay? That's a super nice tool. If you do steps all the time, it is definitely well worth the investment, okay? Once again, I'll leave a link in the description for all of these tools that I use in this video. That way, if you guys are interested, you'll be able to know where to get them without doing a bunch of looking yourself. Okay, now, again, I just laid my straight edge down on my mark, and I'm just getting me 2 or 3 pulls across it. I'm not pushing down extremely hard or anything like that, because we don't want our straight edge to move and get all crooked on us or anything like that. So just a couple easy does it scribes across here, score marks, and now we got it all done. We should be able to disassemble this, break the ends off, and have a nice cut. Let's see here, now that it's took apart, voila. We'll do the same thing on this end. There we go. And again, we're going to do the same thing on this other board. Okay. And there. So because I only cut halfway through this one coming this way, my brake stopped right there, so I'm going to turn this over, place my knees on it. Now we got to break our long mark right there, okay? So I'm going to use my thumbs right there to push back on it like that to break this off. There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay. So now we got a nice clean step to go with. And what I want to do, you can see how this stuff will break. And it is best to break these like I did right there, because we are using the scribe and we do want to keep exactly with the scribe that we're using there, okay? If we use a miter saw, it's going to be a straight cut. Whether it's at an angle, it's going to be a straight cut because the blade will only cut straight. This scribe will allow you to deviate in and out, and that's why I want to hand cut these and break them off, because it's going to go exactly with my scribe, okay, which is exactly with the steps. So what we got right here, because this is a break, we have a little extra material in the backing of this product showing out further than the actual face of it, the actual wear layer. We don't want this sticking out. We don't want the backing sticking out past the wear layer, okay? So I'm going to take just a second, and I'm actually going to take and trim all of this backing off to where it will be down lower than the actual face of the product, so we're not having hesitation and the backing hitting our walls and it looking like a gap on the face, okay? So this is what I was wanting to point out right here. You can probably see some excess backing sticking up again in front of the face layer. Rather, right here, you only see the face of the product, okay? That's exactly what we want. I'll flip this around. You can see where I trimmed that off. That way there's nothing sticking up above the wear layer, okay? That's what we want. Okay, we got all of our edges trimmed down here on this. Nice clean edges to work with. So now I'm gonna put these two pieces back together and place them on my step and see how it looks, okay? You want to be real precise about lining these edges up when you lock it back in, because that was absolutely precise whenever we put our score mark on there, okay? That little tapping down just makes sure that it seats in there real good, and I'm actually going to take and give it just a little bit of a bend backwards just to make sure it locks in good. Placing it on there as one piece, I'm going to go with one side and float it down to the other side, and it looks, that was perfect. Since I had to tap it in there, that made it absolutely perfect. That's what you want. That's a nice finished look. Let's go ahead, go with our next riser. Once again, I'm going to lay my speed square on top of that and get another measurement right here. We learned how to do this a while ago, so we might skip through this one. This one is a little different because we now have the thickness of our plank and stuff like that on this step, so it's a little shorter than our previous step, okay? You always want to measure each one of these steps. Each one of these could vary a quarter inch, an eighth inch, or anything like that, and that is going to be tremendous, okay? Don't take one measurement for all these steps. You want to measure each individual step, because now we have a finished floor here that we have to make sure it looks real pretty on the bottom, and also we want it nice and flush with the top of the step here, okay? So every single step, we want to make sure that we measure every individual step to get it nice, okay? There, always want to place one side. Whenever you're working with something real tightly fitting, you want to stick one side in and push the other side in, okay? That way you get a nice snug fit. Now, because this is a little snug, it's exactly what we want. I'm going to try to bow out on my center, which actually shortens the piece up, and push that in there. All right, all the way down. Let's check our top again, and it looks like we are absolutely perfect right there. So this is a super nice fit right here. I'm actually really happy with that, and I want to notice the bottom here as well, okay? This is a nice, really nice clean fit at the bottom of this. We don't have to put any trim or anything like that right here. That's the reason why I always want to take and choose the cleanest edges for the specific places, okay? If there was a little booger spot, I was going to put it up here on the bottom and have this edge really nice and clean, okay? I will always full spread my vinyl plank, hardwood, laminate, whatever I'm putting on the steps, I will always full spread. That means I will cover the complete step with glue, okay? With polyurethane based adhesive on these on the tread regardless if it's a hardwood, laminate, vinyl plank, or whatever it is, the polyurethane adhesive is going to stick to a slick surface such as your laminates and stuff, and it's also a waterproof adhesive. But you may have noticed my little squiggly line last time. It's because I did a demo on these exactly like I'm doing here. I didn't want to full spread it because I didn't want the problem of getting it off, because once you do that, you are the tread is there, okay? You're not going to get it off, so that's why I didn't do it. But you hear that sounds a little bit hollow sounding. You don't want that on your steps. You want them to sound and just feel like a solid piece of wood. So when you put your polyurethane wood adhesive on the step, it's just going to, you won't hear anything like that, any kind of hollow sound or anything. It's going to feel and perform like a solid chunk of wood, which is exactly what you want. Once again, I will leave links in the description to all the adhesives and stuff like that I recommend for these vinyl planks and risers. All right, we got that. We're going to go on to our next tread. This time, just to show something a little different, I'm actually going to put a seam in our tread right here. I'll go about centered approximately. I'm not going to make it specific. We'll put a butt seam in our plank right here in the center of the step, and that way you can have an idea what that looks like on the steps as well. That way you'll know, do I want to do that or not? Okay, so to get this seam in front of this, in the center of that, I'm just going to take and split this board in half and then put it over here and put this same board right back together. That'll give me a butt joint right in the center of that, okay? That'll give me something to work with. So with that being said, I'm just going to score it right there and break it. And now I can take and put these two pieces right together, and you see how that will give me my butt joint right where I want it to, right there. There we go. Okay. Lock all this stuff down. Start with the first one on this. Tighten it down, push the second one over, tighten it down, and push the third one over and tighten it down. This, once again, that's just going to give me a perfect, precise cut. Not sometimes, but every single time. Okay, now again, start with one side, raise up, transfer that right over here. So right here is my joint. I want it somewhat centered of my step is what we was going for, so I'm scoot this down about right in there. It's going to be pretty close to the center. Go ahead and mark my back right there and right there, and go to marking my edges again. Put this thing back together now. Again, you got to be real precise with these end pieces right there and getting them lined up nicely and locked in position. Real good. Let's place it on the step. See what it looks like. Once again, we're going to go from one side down to the other side. And I hope it's a little bit snug. Boom, just like that. You can see that it's getting a little bit hung up right there. That means it's a nice tight fit right there. So I'm going to just take and push it down like so. Really nice. That's exactly what we're going for. Okay, so same process as this one and this one. We're going to set our square up there and get our measurement for the next riser. So again, set it flat on the step, put our tape measure down and measure to the bottom of that to the bottom of the square is exactly what we want, okay? 6 3/8 on the height, and 36 1/8 again on the length. Okay, got a nice fit there again. Always going to check, make sure our top is good right there. Nice. Anytime you got to push down that, you know it's a nice fit when you got to do that. Okay. All right, nice and flush in the front. Right, there it is. Now it's nice and flush in the front. Okay, we got all of our treads and risers cut. Now the only thing we need to do is apply our stair nosings, and we're going to be done, okay? Okay, so these are actually an overlap stair nosing. This is what comes with the Cortec San Andreas oak color, okay? This is just directly from the manufacturer, so you don't have a whole lot of choices when it comes to manufacturer made stair nosing. However, I do have alternatives for stair nosings that are not plastic, but in this video we are definitely just going with the manufacturer based stair nosing, okay? Some people might think the overlaps are a trip hazard and stuff coming down the steps. It's not codes and blah blah blah. This is a super thin, yet it's strong enough, okay? This is really thin right here, and then it even tapers down even more whenever it comes up to the edge where it actually meets the vinyl plank itself, okay? So by no means is nobody going to trip over this piece of stair nosing, okay? It's nice, slim, yet fairly strong for what it is, okay? Okay, so these are pretty basic, okay? All we're going to do is measure the width of our stair and then measure our trim piece, mark it, and cut it, okay? We definitely want to make sure these are a nice, tight fit, though, okay? We don't want gaps on the side of our stair nosings or anything like that, okay? Keep it nice and tight and clean, just like all the other cuts. So we are going to go, this first one is going to be 36 inches even. Let's go ahead and get it marked. And I'm going to measure and mark all three of these steps at the same time. So on the back of these, I'm going to put what step is what. This is going to be number 1, okay? That way I don't have to run back and forth doing this. But again, I am going to mark this with an ink pen so I can get a really fine mark and be real precise with my cut. Okay, before we go any further, we want to make sure that we dry fit all of these on here. Make sure that they're going to fit properly before we actually get adhesive on it and stuff like that, okay? Last thing you want to do is get adhesive all over this and the step and then it not fit. So let's double check ourselves before we go that far. This is the third one. Let's check it out there. Okay, that's a little tight, so maybe it's not too tight to work. Maybe it is. We'll see. Okay. It's not. That's actually a beautiful fit right there. Because it was tight, I bowed it up in the center a little bit and then allowed it to go right on there. Okay, so that's exactly what we want right there. That's a really nice fit. Number 2, we're going to check it out on the second one here. Okay, again, you see it's a little tight right there. Get one end all the way in, pull up a little bit on the middle and let it flex back down in its place. Okay, those are beautiful fits. Those are actually working out really nice. Let's check this one. And okay, well, no flex on that. And I got just a smidgen in between there. Not enough to concern me, okay? It might be a 32nd or something, but that's I'm gonna deal with that, okay? Okay. So what I'm gonna do here, I've got my stair nosing all the way pushed in tight where it belongs. I'm gonna scoot it back about a 1/4 inch right there and right there. And I'm going to hold it about a 1/4 inch this way from where it actually is going to go, okay? Now what I'm going to do is take my pencil, since I have it pulled back this way, and I'm going to mark my tread at the edge of this stair nosing right here. And because it's back, whenever I actually apply my tread, it's going to cover that mark up and it's never going to be seen. That just gives me something to go by, so now I can see exactly where my tread's going to go, okay? I'm going to do that on all 3 of these. So what we need to do to ensure that these are going to stick to the tread and to this here, this is a really slick surface, okay, because it's a piece of plastic. So what I got here is just I don't know, a medium grit is what it said. It didn't really have a texture. Probably 120 or something like that. You don't want to get too fine because you do want to rough it up a little bit. But I'm just going to take this little sanding block right here, sand and sponge, and I'm just going to rough up the backing of this. You don't have to get too crazy with it. You just want to rough it up a little bit to give it just a little bit of texture. Now it's got like a matte finish on it, okay? It's not super shiny and slick like this. It actually has a little texture. That's going to make these adhesives get a really good stick on this. What it's doing, it's giving it something to bite a hold of rather than a really slick surface there, okay? Now, I'm going to take my sanding block, and where I marked my steps, I don't want to go past my mark, of course, but I'm actually going to take the first inch or so where on this side of my mark, and I'm going to rough up this vinyl plank a little bit, just like I did this, okay? We want to get a really good adhesion with this stair nosing. The stair nosing is the part of the step that gets the most foot traffic out of any part of the step, okay? So this nosing part is very important when it comes to security, okay? You got to make sure these get a good hold. Okay, so I don't have a drenched rag. I've just got a little bit of a damp rag. I want to take and clean that off. Last thing you want to do is try to stick something to a dusty surface, okay? It just don't work. Got to get rid of all the dust. Want to do this on the treads and on the stair nosing piece itself, okay? We want to make sure both surfaces are nice and clean. So what I want to use to put that down on there is a Ardex construction adhesive, okay? This is a really high quality construction adhesive, okay? I will leave a link. If I can't find this online, I will leave a link to some other products that will work as well. Maybe something that you can get at a box store or something like this. However, if you can find this in your area, I would definitely highly recommend this adhesive right here. It is a very, very good and strong adhesive. So rather than just putting a straight line of adhesive on this, I'm actually going to do a little squiggly line, somewhat like you've seen on the actual stair when we first started this, okay? So you see the little W motion or N motion that I'm doing. We're going to do that same adhesive pattern on all 3 pieces. So whenever I put this stair nosing on there, I'm actually going to put the back of it on the step like that and force it down this way. That way the glue that's underneath this is going to get smushed back this direction. If I place it on there like that and roll it forward, it's going to force that glue out the end and it's going to get all over your tread, okay? So we're going to put the back on first and roll it toward the edge of the step, okay? Again, I have to bow up on the center part to get this in there good. And before I roll it all the way down, I'm just kind of filling with my thumbs right here to make sure it is where it needs to be on my riser. And then once it's there, I'm gonna mash it down. There we go. That worked out beautiful. I'll make sure it's all nice down on there good. And what we need to do with those, because it is going to take this adhesive a little while to dry, I'm actually going to take some blue painter's tape and I'm going to put some tape on these stair nosings just to hold them in place. Okay. Alright, so I'm just going to tear me off maybe 6 or 8 inches or something like that. I'm going to put about 3 of these pieces per on each step. I want to mash it down and at the same time push it back that way, okay? Alrighty, that's it. The tape is the final step. We now have a beautiful set of vinyl plank steps. Again, this is Core-Tec San Andreas Oak is the color. And thank you guys for tuning in. And as always, we really appreciate it. Until next time, FBSB's out.